I want to talk about other confirmations that I was talking about earlier. So I had posted this in the community post 2 days ago. Actually, it's not even 2 days ago now. It may have been like 4 or 5 days ago, but I thought it was interesting that today I was listening to Brother Daniel from Blow the Shofar, and he kind of came to the same conclusion as me regarding when Israel would respond to Iran. And I thought it was interesting. I'm going to read what I put. I put interesting that despite Israel celebrating trumpets before the new moon sighting on October 4th, their celebrations still end on the 25th. They are clearly planning to strike Iran and only delayed until the completion of their fall feast celebration. Should they strike Iran on the 26th after their celebrations, it would still be the 8th day biblically. So, I had watched Brother Daniel. We both kind of came to the same conclusion. Obviously, Israel is going to respond. I mean, especially since Yahya Sinwar's death, Israel's been very quiet and they haven't responded. But guys, the reason they haven't responded is because of the holy days. They're not going to start an all-out war in the time of Hashem's holy days, right? So when we look at the first time back in April, when Iran sent these ballistic missiles over, it took Israel less than a week to respond. And so we have Israel not responding for 3 weeks now. They're going to respond, but they're clearly waiting until their celebrations are complete. And their celebrations are complete on the 25th. So we will see what happens on the 26th. But I thought that was interesting that I was listening to him today, and that video was released today.
So since the state of Israel is observing its holy days through the 23rd, it seems logical to me that they would wait until the 24th or 25th to act against Iran. This makes the 25th a prime time for Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea to respond or preempt whatever action Israel takes. So since the 25th is the later Atzeret date, it kind of lines up with the Jews getting through their feast and then stuff happening on the actual potential silver moon feast date. There's another event going on, which is BRICS. They are meeting from October 22nd to 24th. Now, this is a great time for these nations to finalize their plans to take down Babylon the Great. And they probably wouldn't do it any earlier than the 25th, after everyone returns home from their meeting. So I would say the 25th of October is a date to pay attention to, because Israel will be ready, the BRICS will be ready, and things can get set in motion.
This is what is technically the new moon, the waxing crescent, the first illumination. The first sliver, also it's called, of the new moon. David said to Jonathan, "Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit at the table with the king. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field to the third day and evening." Exodus 12:2, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "In the land of Egypt, this month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you." And then we also know Psalms 81, blow the trumpet at the new moon, at the full moon, on our solemn feast day. So the moon, we know that the new moon is the time of blowing trumpets. And so we need this sliver to blow the trumpet at the new moon. Numbers 10:10, at the beginning of your months you shall blow trumpets. Again, if the moon is completely dark, it's not seen, and it's therefore not observable. David knew the new moon would appear tomorrow, and the first sliver would have been observed with the naked eye as early as approximately 15 hours later, or a few hours longer. Even in Israel today, it actually happened this month. They did not spot the moon October 2nd. And she said if they didn't spot it on the 3rd, they would automatically start the first day of the first month and the Feast of Trumpets on the 4th, because there is a window of time where the dark moon cannot remain dark. So there's an expectation here with Jonathan and David. They were expecting by tomorrow that the moon would be visible and observable. I wanted to show you guys the moon phase in stellarium from October 2nd to October 4th so that you guys can also see this visually. So over here you can see the phase is 0% on October 2nd. And then this is October 3rd, same thing, 0% here, 0%. And then there's nothing here to be seen. So there's no new moon. There is no first day of the first month, and therefore no Feast of Trumpets on October 3rd and October 2nd. It's just not possible for it to be with 0%. And then on that third day, like David said, he's going to be in the field to the third day. Now we can see 2% illumination. We can actually see when we zoom in 2% here, and then we can actually see the moon sliver. October 4th is the first day of the first month and the Feast of Trumpets. I just wanted to show you guys this to explain the calculation for the fall feast first. So in summary, because the moon was not visible and observable between October 2nd and October 3rd, the new month and Feast of Trumpets did not begin on these days. The moon is 2% illuminated on October 4th. The new sliver is visible and observable and sighted from the land of Israel at even, and it is for us also observable in stellarium. So this is the first day of the new month, the Feast of Trumpets, so we can blow the shofar. So now that we got that out the way, then we can look at the calculation for the fall feast. We know that they are sunset to sunset, being that we have the waxing crescent October 4th, sunset trumpets begins October 5th, sunset trumpet ends. And then you have Yom Kippur, which starts on the 10th day after trumpets. So this is a time of awe, and it begins October 13th at sunset and ends October 14th at sunset. And then 5 days after the last day of Yom Kippur, we have Sukkot, and that takes us to October 18th. And of course, Sukkot is 7 days, October 18th to the 24th. Again, sunset to sunset. So that puts us at Shemini Atzeret beginning October 25th at sunset to October 26th at sunset. We can use both the new moon and the full moon. So Sukkot is always going to begin 15 days after the first sliver, and it's always going to fall on the full moon. The same thing is with Passover. So 15 days from October 4th, including the 4th, is October 18th, the day of the full moon. And then we can confirm Shemini Atzeret 8 days from the first day of Sukkot, including the 18th, is October 25th, Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day.
Lincoln's going to be there from the 21st to the 25th. He's going to be in the Middle East. There's no way that there's going to be something happen in the Middle East with Blinken sitting right there. And we know that Israel's going to be making the next move because Damascus would be a ruinous heap. Damascus would be a ruinous heap. And we know that Iran would be a ruinous heap. With him being there from this to this, and he's going to be all over the Middle East talking to everybody, there's no way that this would happen with him sitting there.
But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Basically, we would expect life to be relatively normal, and then he comes. So any world events that are going to change life from the normal can't occur before he comes, because we need people to be eating and drinking and marrying. I've been trying to figure out if eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage could be referring to any particular feast days or timeline. Sometimes people associate tabernacles with a wedding. So sometime after tabernacles, Noah enters the ark.
So transfigured, glorified on the Feast of Sukkot and the Lord's Day. So Matthew 17:2. And Jesus was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. Mark's gospel says, and his raiment became shining, exceeding white as snow. So these similar events. And then we get back to Revelation 1:14, John's vision of the Lord's day. It says his head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow. So we see these similarities between John's vision of the Lord's day and transfiguration, which occurred on Feast of Sukkot. In both cases, folks, all the apostles fell on their faces in both of the events. And that's another similarity, not just the white, but that they all fell on their faces. It says in Matthew's gospel, a voice came out of the cloud which said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased, hear him." And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, "Arise and do not be afraid." Mark's gospel says, "For they were sore afraid, and there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud." And then going back to John's vision of the Lord's day, it says, "And when I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead. And he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not." So we have them seeing the Lord, hearing his voice, and them falling on their faces afraid, and then being comforted, and Jesus saying, "Do not be afraid." We see the same exact thing on the Feast of Tabernacles at the birth of Jesus in Luke's gospel. "And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not." And then it says here, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord." We know for a fact that transfiguration occurred on Feast of Tabernacles. We know Jesus was born on Feast of Tabernacles, and we're going to see that later. The only thing I'm saying is, because of the similarities, I do believe that John's vision of the Lord and the Lord's day will occur on the 8th day. Now, the two witnesses also will appear during tabernacles. Remember the tabernacle of witness. "Let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elias." Tabernacles is also the time that God came down and accepted Solomon's temple. So you guys remember Solomon's prayer in 2 Chronicles 5. He was dedicating the newly constructed temple. God is manifesting his glory by consuming the burnt offering and the sacrifices with fire from heaven. And then he was filling the temple with his presence, and he accepted Solomon's temple on Sukkot. And the Apostle Paul says we are the temple of God.
Consider where we are on the full moon calendar, which is the calendar I think is the true calendar for numerous reasons. The 8th month started on the 17th or 18th of October, depending upon your time zone in the United States. So this has the anniversary of Noah entering the ark on the 26th or 27th of October, with the rain starting 7 days later on the 17th of the 2nd month, which would be November 2nd or 3rd. And on that particular date, Jupiter is in opposition of the sun, which means at midnight it's going to be straight overhead. Of course, the Septuagint has Noah entering the ark on the 20th day, which would have Noah enter on November 5th or 6th would be the anniversary. And then the rain started 7 days later on November 12th to 13th.
"And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I shall lose nothing, but should raise it up at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up in the last day. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up in the last day. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. In the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried, saying, If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. We also know that the last day is the day of resurrection with Lazarus, Eleazar. We see a 4-day delay. Obviously, Jesus delayed 2 days, but it took him 2 additional days to travel to get to Lazarus. And I think for us, it would be a 4-year delay. Jesus said unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And we talked about this a few years ago. This can only be the dead in Christ. This is a rapture verse because he says, And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Those who are alive and remain. These can only be about those. The trump of God is exactly what John says. He heard a voice as a trumpet. Jesus' voice is the actual trumpet. Come up hither. The same thing is found in Esdras, where he says the whole world is going to hear this and going to be terrified, just as it was in Mount Sinai.
Just below the moon and Mars is Cancer, representing heaven, our home for the next 7 years.
The full moon on the 17th or 18th. And I show you where the bricks are meeting, where Israel has their tabernacles.
We have Passover, which is the first month. This will be in April. This is the beginning of the year. And then we also have the end of the year, which falls in October, the 7th month. This is also the time of tabernacles. We see with Passover, tabernacles, the beginning and the end. So Passover, the first coming, and also the first harvest, Matthew 27. And then I honestly believe the rapture, which is the second harvest. But I think what the Lord was showing us with Passover and tabernacles is the beginning and the end, the beginning and the end, the beginning of harvest, the beginning of the age, and the end of the age, and the end of the harvest.
The comet is closest to the sun on the 28th. So, right after the Atzeret ends, we go straight into the days that Noah entered the ark, or the anniversary thereof, according to the Masoretic text. So, and then we have the comet, and then the end of those 7 days, and the start of the flood, according to the Masoretic text, is November 2nd, which is when Jupiter is opposite the sun, straight overhead in the middle of the night.
John 7:26 or 7:26. Now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. His brother therefore said unto him, Depart hence and go to Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest. For there is no man that doeth anything in secret, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. For neither did his brothers believe in him. Then Jesus saith unto them, My time is not yet come, but your time is always ready. So what we see here is that the day and the hour that Jesus would appear would be during Sukkot, but not at the beginning and not openly, but in secret. Jesus's brothers advise him to show himself to the whole world, and it's during Sukkot that they're saying this, and they're saying, don't do it in secret, as Jesus both planned and did. And this would especially be true of our time, as Jesus is not going to show himself to the whole world. He would be calling us up and out. We would be meeting him in the air. He would not show himself to the whole world at the rapture, and all will not see him until the second coming. Go ye up unto the feast. I go not up yet unto the feast, for my time is not yet full come. When he had said these words unto them, he abode still in Galilee. But when his brethren were gone up, then went he also up unto the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret. Then the Jews sought him at the feast and said, Where is he? But I think it's important to know that the Jews are looking for the Messiah during Sukkot, not just in this passage, but we also see that in Matthew 21. What do we see? We see the Jewish people getting palm branches to meet the Lord in his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Now, when I saw that, at first I didn't think anything of it. but the palm branches are not associated with Passover. It's associated with tabernacles, which shows us that they were expecting Messiah during the Feast of Tabernacles. And so they got him during Passover. But I think this is a clue for us. The full time for Jesus in this passage can only refer to his appearance at Sukkot and not his crucifixion, because I mean he goes to the feast and it's a long time off from Passover, between Tabernacles and Passover. So when he says my time is not yet come, he's clearly talking about his appearance. And he's talking about his appearance and coming in secret during the feast of Sukkot. So he tarries in Galilee, and he said his time had not yet fully come. What time? The time to appear. So Jesus tarried in Galilee for a while. It's the same thing we see with the 2-day delay when he raises Lazarus from the dead, again, dead in Christ. He would arrive on the 4th day. Again, we know the vineyard cuts down the tree in the 4th year. I think this could be related. Also, Jesus secretly goes up to the feast in the middle of tabernacles. It says, now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up to the temple. Passover marks the beginning of the harvest, and tabernacle marks the ingathering of harvest. So, will Jesus take us to tabernacle with him this Sukkot? So, this same Passover and tabernacle beginning and end time harvest pattern is recorded in John's gospel in order, just as we see with the blood moon tetrad. Passover is recorded in John 6, and tabernacles is in John 7. Sukkot is the full time to bring in the year-long harvest. It's also the time for the Lord to appear in secret. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh, and the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. Now, interestingly, we know Amos tells us that the time of destruction is going to be at the feast, but their feast, and I will turn your feast into mourning. Tabernacles is also the time of making offerings by fire, which could be associated with the believer's works by fire. Leviticus 23:36. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. And then we have 1 Corinthians 3:13. Every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man work abide, which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? So we also know Sukkot is when the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. So I wanted to just show you guys here the manger, because this is also related to Cancer, the crab, also known as the manger. So Jesus is born on the 1st day of tabernacles, circumcised and named on the 8th day. So we know from Luke's gospel that Jesus is conceived 6 months after the conception of John the Baptist on Kislev 25. This would have been the time of Hanukkah, an 8-day festival, also known as the Festival of Lights. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Some other clues as to how we know Jesus was born on the Feast of Tabernacles and not on the Feast of Trumpets. There was no room for them in the inn. And it also says shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over the flock. And of course, this is the day that he was born. So we know that it was on this day that he was born, when these other things are happening in the background. There's no room in Israel, because Tabernacles is one of 3 feasts where men are required to appear before the Lord. So there would have been millions of Jews traveling, and they would have been traveling to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles, and this is why there was no room in the inn. If Jesus was born on the Feast of Trumpets and they were traveling on the Feast of Trumpets, there would have been plenty of room, because this is not a time where there's a requirement to appear before the Lord. It's just Passover, Pentecost, and Sukkot. And this is another reason why I'm looking at this time for rapture, because Tabernacles is a time where we have to appear before the Lord. And since Passover and Pentecost is already fulfilled in appearing before the Lord, I'm looking for Tabernacles next to appear before the Lord. The next point in the passage is that shepherds are also abiding in the field, keeping watch over the flock. And especially more during tabernacles because of the influx of travelers. So the shepherds would have been under greater threat of robbers who would have wanted to steal their flock. So the shepherds in the field and Jesus, our great shepherd, in the manger during tabernacles, I think is a reference to the constellation Cancer, which is also known again as the manger, the sheepfold, the kettlefold. And this is where the moon, the bright, will be during Sukkot, the 8th day this year. Jesus also later references robbers in relation to sheep. It's interesting to see it in connection to his birth on Sukkot, though. Jesus said, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enters in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief cometh not, but to steal and to kill and to destroy. And I come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Revelation 4:1 again. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as it were a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither. So we know thieves are associated with tabernacles. We also know the sheepfold, and Jesus, our shepherd, who comes like a thief in the night, as the thieves who would have come on Sukkot in Luke 2. The shepherds watch over their flock by night at Sukkot during the birth of our shepherd in the manger, or Cancer. 1 Thessalonians 5:1-4. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write of you. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you. So if anybody come at me in the comments like, no one knows, obviously he's talking about the day of the Lord, which I think, again, the Lord's Day, John's vision, I'm referencing that. The woman in travail, or as travail upon a woman with child, I believe refers to Mary, who gave birth to Jesus on Sukkot. Jesus comes as a thief in the night. On the night, shepherds would be in the field watching over their flock on Sukkot when millions are traveling, including thieves and robbers. The shepherds is in the field with their flock. Two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken, the other left. The sheep will be gathered into the barn at the feast of ingathering. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know at what hour I will come upon thee. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known and would watch, the thief would come, he would have watched and would have not suffered his house to be broken up. Never in the history of lawlessness have I ever seen a case where a thief or a home invader is going to go and tell the homeowner exactly when they're coming to invade in their house. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen. But it says here that if the goodman of the house had known and would watch, the thief would come. He would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken into. Jesus, who comes as a thief, tells us to watch. Jesus Christ is only coming as a thief to those who are neither watching nor ready. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame.
The one that I had in Sukkot during Feast of Tabernacles, there was that pillowcase made of that material from Lowe's. It's anyway, a very humble material you use for putting it down in the floor when you paint. And I know that God was, it was like a pillowcase full of people, like souls or something. And I know that God was telling me, I just knew that it was three things that were prerequisites besides accepting Yeshua, Jesus, and all that. It was humble. It was the people, God's people, that were humble. They were like clean from the world, like keep themselves clean from the world. Your heart, your mind, just anything that can bog you down, anything that you know is not of God, any bad thought like, oh, she must not, whatever. And grudges and all that. No, that's not allowed. You have to be clean, circumcised heart. And third, connected with Christ, or together in unity with Jesus. So, okay, so that was during Tabernacles, the Feast of Sukkot, that I had that dream.
20 years ago, Lord told me about the Feast of Tabernacle regarding the rapture. And I have not changed my belief on that. I still believe the rapture will take place on the Feast of Tabernacle. I do not know which one. I do not know if it's this year. I do not know if it's next year or the year after that. But one thing I do know, the Lord has shown me years ago that His return is on the Feast of Tabernacle to take us out of here.
I dreamt that it was 3 scenes. People were getting ready to vote in the States, here in the States, for the president. So it was before November 3rd. People were getting ready to vote, and then scene changed. My family and I were eating dinner. We were eating beans. I know it's like a lot of weird things that I'm gonna say right now. But and then the third scene, we were around, we were eating bowl of beans, and we were sitting. I have this like I don't know how to call it. It's where you put like your fancy china. It's like a glass doors, and I have my feast things there, like candles and the Seder plate. And anyway, we were like around there eating it. Like for some reason we were closer to it. And then the last scene was dirt. I saw like from above, like dirt, like just like an area, and there was corn in it, like corn seeds, and they were separate, but you could see the top of the corn. And then all of a sudden they like lit up the corn seeds. They like a supernova or something, like it just bright golden. And then they transformed into candy corn. I know it's like really weird and kind of funny, but it doesn't matter. And then I woke up and I was like, I knew it had to do with the rapture. I knew. So, and it was all this timing. People were getting ready to vote. Timing. It was dinner time. It was like we were almost done with dinner. And when I woke up, I was like I just made a pot of beans, like a big old pot of beans. And I don't do that very often for several reasons, but it's nutritious. So I done that, and we were having a party, and it's cheap. Anyway, I just made this pot of beans. I just cooked it. And then the third one, the candy corn, like timing.
She and this other guy, there's another guy different from her, had a mysterious run-in with someone that was talking things about the future that added up to too much, and they couldn't figure out why. We automatically thought they could have been angels that they had come into contact with. It's not unheard of. It happens. Even the Bible says, you could entertain angels and not know. Now, Hot Mess got her message in 2013. These are 2 stories we've been doing a lot of research, and I mean a lot on, me and Shelley both. Now, in 2013, Hot Mess was working at, I guess, a restaurant. And at this restaurant, this woman walks in and starts to explain things to her. Now, she didn't really ask for this information, but this woman wanted to tell her a story. She was going to tell her about an election that would come in 2020 that would be, not legal. What would happen at the end of it? We won't go into detail with that. You all know what I'm talking about. and pretty much told her about all these weird and strange things, which is the pandemic and all that stuff that happened. But she said the next election after that's when it gets interesting. And she said she was so froze she couldn't even have a conversation with this person because there was just something wasn't right. So this person went on to say the next election, everybody's going to think it's going to happen, but it never takes place because the rapture takes place. Now, we see that story, and then we're like, okay, this is an awesome story, but that's just one story. Now, she went to churches and everything else trying to ask for help, just kind of like what I did when I got my message. I didn't even know what to do with it, and I had to have help. But she went to churches and everything, telling everybody after 2020 happened. Now, remember, this happened in 2013, years before that ever happened, and she was correct about everything that happened. So she wanted to warn people. She tried her best. Nobody would listen to her. Everybody said she was quack and that. Of course, people don't believe anything these days, especially when it comes to God. I mean, they'll believe something stupid, but when it comes about God, they don't care. So I think that this story is awesome. So we keep it there, and we're trying to get confirmation on it. Well, right after that, a young man messaged me, and we've never been able to get no follow up with him. But he ran into this person in 2019 and was talking about this. Now, he was working at a gas station, and we've asked for him to rewrite in, but we've never got a reply from him. But he worked at a gas station, and this person approached him and told him about what would happen in 2020, and then told him about there would not be an election the next time around, that the rapture would take place right before. So that's two stories from two people that did not know each other. It's exact story, except one of the people, she was with a woman and he was with a man. And both of those stories are identical. So we was wondering if they had heard from angels. Now, if you've had a story like this, a confirmation of this, make sure that you write us. These are two situations that exactly happen the same way. Now, what we'll tell you is that's all we know. One met a woman that knew the future. One was a guy that knew the future. They said the same story about 2020 and the next election. Now, that's two different stories. Now, we can go by the warnings. Now, if you take that with what Jesus gave me, when I heard that in my spirit that no, Trump ain't coming back, I am, that actually goes with theirs.
A lot of timing. We only use candy corn during autumn, close to Halloween time. We don't use that after.
The end date for Shimini Ataret is October 26th at sunset. This also could be a 7-day warning to the new moon, sudden destruction, and for us worshiping the Lord. Isaiah 66:23 says, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. And from the 26th, 7 days takes us directly to the new moon and to the Sabbath on November 2nd. Again, we blow the trumpet at the new moon, Psalm 81:3. Amos, it says they were waiting until the new moon was gone.
This is the path of the comet that's coming. And you see that its closest approach to Earth is around October 23rd, and then it does a really quick loop around the sun. Now, when this last comet that we've been tracking went by the sun, it caused massive solar flares to be directed at Earth, causing a major geomagnetic storm. And those flares were emitted on October 9th. So if this comet, which is going to be even closer to the sun, does anything like it, then we should expect more solar storms heading this way. Probably sometime several days after the comet gets close. I would say the 28th through the 2nd of November. 28th of October through the 2nd of November would be a good window for solar storm activity.
It was during close to Halloween, and this has happened several times. So in my dream, we had just got done with a party, and we were cleaning up, and there were some people there I know, and I said, I'll clean it up, and they were helping. Well, the point is that they went inside this house, like upstairs, the children and some other people that everybody else had already left, but my family and my husband and some other men had to go to work, and all of a sudden they were already gone. I was with some teenagers. I saw some teenagers that were dressed like Halloween attire, and they were saying, "Oh, that's a cool costume you're wearing," and I was wearing like a peasant costume. And I told them, "That's not a costume. I wear this all the time." So I turned around and I saw that the kids had already gone in, or they weren't there. So I just started walking to go upstairs, inside the building or house. And I was a little worried because I didn't see them. And I called my son's name, one of my little kids, and I said, his name, and he said, I barely heard. He was gonna say, "I'm here," and he said, That's it when I woke up.
And some other potential feast celebration turned into mourning. We're going to be looking at Halloween as a potential time. "And it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princess and the king's children, and all such are clothed with strange apparel." So I thought about dressing up, costumes. I mean, people dressing up as zombies and all kind of craziness. Another feast or celebration that could be turned into mourning is the 25th of November, and I'm hoping we do not have to wait that long. But of course, I wanted to include it because of the date, and not only that, because it's the last day of Earth's mini moon / asteroid. We have a comet coming on the 24th, could impact on that day or take a couple days. I don't know. We'll see. I am considering both Sukkot and the 8th day, since I prayed a very specific prayer asking the Lord if he was coming during tabernacles. I did not know anything about the fall feast, and I also didn't know anything about the calendars. I mean, I don't even pronounce Gregorian calendar the correct way when I got that dream back in 2020, because I just did not know about all the different calendars. I know it's like living under a rock. But I got the tent in the dream. And of course, I had prayed a specific prayer. So I'm always watching Sukkot, both the 24th and the 26th, not dismissing the 24th because I did receive both those dates. But in the dream, the celebration was going to take place not on the 24th, but on the 26th. Both October 26th and November 2nd are Sabbaths, but 7 days from October 26th again equals November 2nd, which is the new moon and the Sabbath. Again, Isaiah 66:23, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. And then, of course, right before that, in verse 7, Isaiah says, "Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man child." So we know this is the rapture. Before the pain, before the tribulation, the church is delivered out of the earth, out of the world. Our sister Chris, this is Jesus is the way. Jesus is the only way. This is Crystal. Our sister, I wanted to share these two. The cancer dream she received in 2021, it says, "I was helping my friend Ruth get her wedding invitations ready. I told her I can't stay. I have a 4:30 cancer appointment." And she said, yeah, so do I. But first, we have to finish these wedding invitations. And so we can see here the reference to cancer, and then also the reference to wedding invitations, and then Ruth. And so I thought this was super, super interesting. I wanted to share it. Then her 26th dream, it says, "It was as if I was at my old job. I used to work in the financial industry, stocks. I was in this room pointing up to the screen saying, see, these stocks are about to fall. They're about to crash. And it was like no one believed me. Then I walked into the boardroom to prepare lunch for everyone, and suddenly 26 cupcakes fall from the ceiling onto the table. I knew there were 26 of them in my dream. 26 equals love feast, and also in Gematria, the value is Yahweh." I also had other dreams that point to number 8, like several. One that would make you smile was when my boss in the dream gave me an $8.24 raise. Yes, come on, sis. It was for a 1 day special event that we were working on. So, eighth day, of course, October means 8 as well. Resurrection, begin again, new life. Another best friend of mine had a specific dream about being transformed prior to Halloween, which has got us all excited. Of course, looking up, many have had Halloween in their rapture dreams. So thank you so much, Chris. Thanks, sis, for sharing this. That was amazing. I'm also going to share our brother from God's Roadmap to the End. He had put together this extensive compilation of rapture dreams, people having dreams about rapture happening around the time of Halloween, or some people even on Halloween, which is why I'm saying these dates of the 24th, the 26th. I don't think they were just given, just for nothing. And it's not just me, guys. It's not just Crystal. It's not just Andrea. There's so many people that God is showing, Romo even. She took all her videos down, but time is so short. Love you guys.